Welcome back, everyone, as we are getting ready for our second series of the day. Again, we are still without our powerless Mark Rafa R&B Day. It is just me,
Powerless.
Mazel, joined by Joshi, and we are getting into Golden Guardians Academy, taking on 100 Thieves Academy. A pretty fun matchup in its own right. I gotta say, looking at this Golden Guardians roster, bit of a surprise seeing that they have, turned out to be pretty dominant in the Academy season.
True. But there is a very important change
There
coming
is.
in, Mazel. We have to remember that Stixay, who was their coach for a long time and playing in as the AD carry, is now getting replaced by Violet, who we
Finally!
haven't seen this entire season, finally getting to play in the last week. And this guy, we have to remember, is not just some random scrub. He's not somebody that they picked up from amateur hoping for a big break. This guy went to Worlds, man. This guy is good.
He is. And it's incredible, that the roster finally gets its full iteration, even if it's at the end of the split, to get a little bit of reps, to get some stage time for this team, and to see the changeover is going to be so important, right? But as you were kind of talking about, this guy, Violet, like, we're going to show off some of his clips because in the past, right, like, we have seen the level this guy can reach. And yes, he's coming into Academy. It's a little bit new, but being able to have that coming through is going to be super important, as I believe we have the remaining schedule coming up here
Yeah.
instead.
Golden Guardians, I mean, they're playing 100 Thieves, CLG, and Evil Geniuses. So everybody here is currently top half of the table,
Mhm.
right? There is a lot of opportunity for them to continue playing. And the important thing on the other side is that Golden Guardians, they are currently 6 games ahead of the sixth place spot, meaning that even if they lose everything, it's still very likely they get at least a tiebreaker going in to make sure that they can skip the first round of the Proving Grounds plan, skip the sudden death. So everything that Golden Guardians gets from here is all for seeding.
Yeah, it's obviously important, right? You just gotta make sure you want the automatic ticket into the proving grounds proper, not have to play through the play-ins, right? But in
Yeah.
actuality, right, when we're talking more about the Golden Guardian squad, it's been a lot of seeing, the mid jingle duo, Iconic Ryoma coming together themselves. But again switching back to that conversation about Stixay going off to be in the positional coach position that he has been supposed to be in at least this entire time. Now Violet coming in, does it change things? Does it? I mean, obviously, it's going to be a little bit hard to evaluate just off of one series itself, but we get to see a little bit of what this guy has been able to do in the past.
Yeah, and he's a very mechanically talented player, right? When he was playing with Peace, they took the Red Cannons to 5 games and they ended up going 0-3 against Cloud9 in the World Plans this last year. So we know they're a competent team. We know he does pretty well, but the question that we always have to ask looking at these kind of players is, what has he been doing since then? We know a couple things. One, he hasn't been doing a whole lot of scrims with the team. Two, we also know that he's hardly played any Champions queue, and so the only practice this guy has really been getting has been in solo queue for the past 7 weeks of Academy. And solo queue to, competitive play only translates so much. And so there's a big question like, how is his communication going? Are his rotations still going to be on point? And it's going to be one of the major questions that we have on how Golden Guardians is going to be performing. We have to expect good things because of his prior performances, but 7 weeks is a long time.
It is a long time, a very long time, especially in terms of league. But let's go ahead and look over at 100 Thieves Academy themselves, who have had a bit of a rough recency, but have had the solid performances throughout the season that we know and love from this kind of organization as well from this squad.
Yeah, and 100 Thieves, as we see them on our screen, we have to remember that these guys, on the other hand, are right on the cusp. When I checked earlier today, they were currently tied for 6th place, meaning that they need to find some of their wins in order to move into the top half of the standings and dodge that first round. And this is a team who came out swinging, who a lot of our talent were expecting to be one of the best teams in the league. And as we look at their remaining schedule, it's not the scariest thing because you're playing all over the board, right? Golden Guardians are currently in first, but FlyQuest has been struggling quite a bit, and Dignitas is actually the other team that they're tied for 6th with, and could potentially be the do-all, end-all game that they will have to win at the end of the week.
I love the pressure filled moments and it fits the sitting just right here specifically. But talking about sitting, we gotta talk about the bot lane a little bit because the Zoomers are coming out in force here. And I don't know how I
Ooh.
feel about it, Joshi.
I mean, when you have so many young players and young talent coming through, you get to see a lot of opportunities for them to look really good. Busio, we've talked about it quite a bit, role swapping from the mid lane. The kid has hands. He's got ways to go for all kinds of crazy plays. He lands hooks, he goes for skill shots that a lot of other supports wouldn't always go for. But it also means that sometimes he gets caught out. Sometimes his vision isn't always in the right places, and it means the 100 Thieves do have somebody that they know they can rely on to make the plays when it's necessary. But just like we saw with King in the last game, might get caught out a couple too many times.
Yeah, for sure. It gives me so much joy to see the support position always just firing on all cylinders for 100 Thieves, though. And as you say, a little bit of learning curve to that extent, but the track record for this organization and the support role, right? Seeing Poom go up to the next level last year and seeing Busio take a lot of fill those shoes to some extent. It's still been such a wonderful resurgence for the bottom lane and getting to see Wixie, perform with Busio, and it feels like the two kind of unlocking each other as well.
Yeah. But we also have to face the elephant in the room. 100 Thieves are not what we expected them to be.
They're not.
Right? They have been looking for ways to make things happen, but it feels like a lot of the time they've been letting the games happen to them. And that's the thing that we are going to have to pay attention to as we start looking towards proving grounds and where they are going to actually find some of their wins. I can expect that on raw talent alone, they are probably going to be good matches up against Dignitas and FlyQuest, but going up against Golden Guardians, who are currently in first, and where Ryoma and Stixxay have been the bedrocks, and now Violet, another very talented player coming through. It's not going to be easy for 100 Thieves to just bully their way through the first place team.
No, it's absolutely not. And it's still, kind of so interesting to be able to say Golden Guardians is the first place team at Academy themselves. But again, right, every game matters to this extent, making sure you solidify that placing in the seeding, and especially when we, dove into this bot lane so heavily, where both sides have a lot of give and take to them. Where we're talking about,
Yeah.
Wixie Busio have the hands, they have the mechanics, they've made some splashes when they finally came together into the season, but having some of that willingness to go in, a little bit of extra willingness to overextend to some extent can be punished. And on the other side, right, you get this whole new iteration of the bot lane for Golden Guardians, which has been their primary strength, it feels like, in a lot of the games. And how much does that change, right? Like going into the last week, that's a big change to have for the top team.
There's a lot of unknowns coming through, so Violet and Shine, we'll get to see what their synergy is going to be like, but I also want to take a little bit of an opportunity to highlight a couple of the other players that we've been seeing on Golden Guardians, and we will turn our attention back towards the bottom lane when we load into game, and we get to know a little bit more about what Violet is going to be playing, because he was playing a lot of Lucian last season, and that's not something that I think we've seen like a single play this time around, whereas as we look at Iconic and Tony Top, they're players who have actually kind of leveled up quite a bit. Tony Top, well, he was a little bit quiet last week. Iconic has been playing to this bottom lane super, super heavily. He's constantly coming down. He's constantly creating pressure. And if he's going to be able to continue to enable his bottom lane now that's no longer Stixxay, we will get to see whether or not Iconic can continue providing this incredibly effective supportive role that we're often seeing in the jungle.
Exactly. And I wonder where that enableization does come through, because we've seen the likes of J4 obviously having a lot of that enableization to him, but a lot of the aggressive picks starting to come through more so now, like the Hecarims, things along those lines, the Viegos. And I
Yeah.
want to see that iteration of this matchup specifically, because we know Kenvi to be one of the best there is at Academy, right? We call him the GOAT of Academy for a reason. But against Iconic, who has had a track record in the LCS, has had a track record of being this overbearing, aggressive jungler who can dominate games, it's going to be a fun one to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I kind of feel like it's almost at a spot where we get to see Kenvi going up on like a fairy tale, right? If he's the goat, it feels like this goat lost his horns. Now he has to go on a trek to go find the wise man at the top of the mountain, and be like, "Oh, wise man of the mountain, when am I going to be getting my horns back?" And the wise man just says, "Well, it's gonna take some growing pains." Gives him a potion, and eventually Kenvi will get right on back to where he started. But until then, it's a tough road, right? I really want to see where 100 Thieves are going to be stepping up and finding their playmaking ability, finding their trigger pull that they were so good at the beginning of the season.
And I guess that does tie into a little bit of the volatility that we could see in the top lane. I feel like top lane is such an interesting beast in Academy itself, especially right now because of the different approaches I guess you could take in the top lane. The viability of tanks, but bruisers, aggressors, whatever you want. It's not even AP top laners, but specifically for this one matchup, like Tony Top has a lot to prove to me. And I feel like for the Academy season and going against Gamsu, somebody who's coming into the 100 Thieves program would be a nice little touch to the end of the season, I would say.
Yeah. And Tony Top is one of these interesting players who, I've heard that he's very focused on what other people are doing. He tries to emulate some of the best players. He'll go and look at a lot of the Twitch streams or the gameplay of people in China or in Korea and just say, oh, I want to do what they're doing. I need to figure out how to recreate that in order to make myself better. And as long as he's able to continue doing that, he's going to have a lot of pressure. As Gamsu, I feel, is much more of a kind of go with the flow kind of guy. He wants to get better. He takes a lot more time, from what I understand. He spends a lot more time looking at his own play and looking for opportunities where he says, oh, I think I did that wrong. Let's see if I can do it better next time.
Yeah, and going into this first game draft, right, is the best of two. A little bit of adaptation available, but we've seen Gamsu sticking with like the Jaces and things along those lines. Obviously, probably going to see the Nara again as it's just risen in priority, even though we saw the Hullbreaker last game. A little bit questionable there. But in all actuality, right, the draft is going to be really interesting. I expect high priority over the jungles early on to get, the pace started for both these teams, but as well as the bot laners, right? That is something we've seen a ton of, at least in the first phase of drafts along competitive, is, picking your bot lane and getting your jungle, setting up the solo lanes for the second half.
Yeah, and we'll see how they actually choose to do it, as we are still waiting on the teams to get into Champion Select. But one other place I kind of want to look at is where we've brought two international mid laners in, right? Ryoma coming in for Golden Guardians and Jimian coming in for 100 Thieves. And it's been very interesting to watch how the story of these two players has gone, because when Jimian came in, I feel like he was rather hyped, but I am still waiting. I was waiting for him for a long time to impress me, and he had some really good defensive plays. But then last week, he looked so good on the Ahri, right? His ability to wait in different bushes and create pressure all on his own by not necessarily going for these crazy mechanical plays, but just being in the right spot and forcing their opponents to mess up.
It's the Ahri obviously had a decent amount to do with that, but it's been a glow up for Jimmy, and I feel like he has found the comfort, at least in playstyle in North America now, and not all the way right. It's still only been a little bit of the split, right? And having one split under your belt in a different system is definitely a tall task to kind of say that everything's good, but the fact that we do see kind of those pop-up performances of Jimmy, especially on the Ahri last time around, it's so crucial. So I wonder if 100 Thieves will be putting a little bit more priority on that Ahri here as we do get into things for our second series of the day. Golden Guardians on that blue side will be banning away the Lee Sin. 100 Thieves on the red side ban away the Volibear.
And both junglers going to be focused up a little bit with the bans thus far. We haven't necessarily seen a whole lot of super surprising things coming out in the drafts recently, Mazel. And I gotta ask, I know you're an 80 carry player, but what have you been thinking of the whole Jinx Zeri thing recently?
You're
bored as the rest of us?
I was so excited at the beginning of the split. I was like, oh my god, it's finally time. The ADCs get to shine. We don't get one shot by literally everybody in the game. We actually have things that we can do in the early game. We're not just left on an island. Oh my god. And then we get Jinx versus Aphelios for every single game for the first 8 weeks
half the season.
of the season. And now we're finally getting Zeri letting on through a lot of the times because people feel like they find the poke. So I do find it as an interesting question. Still very interested that North America wants to ban away the Caitlyn. That kind of blows my mind. But I've been loving the Jinx. I think it provides those late game, tense, stressful moments where you're getting the ADC popping off on both sides and it all comes down to a gun show in the end of it. Speaking of gun show, though, the Zeri banned away by 100 Thieves of the second phase. That's that Caitlyn I was talking about. The Tom Kench and Rise were the bans by Golden Guardians.
I'm worried, Mazel, right? We were saying you got so much Jinx, Aphelios, Jinx, Aphelios, Jinx, Aphelios, right? When Zeri and Caitlyn are banned, I am expecting something very similar coming out once again, because with Jinx and all these other 80 carries already banned, there's not a whole lot left to actually pick up. So 100 Thieves, we'll see what answer it is that they actually want to go for, because it is the same thing again and again.
Is it worse than Udyr Hecarim meta, though? Is it? I don't know if it's worse than that just yet. Because you still get like
Why are
get
you
the
making me choose?
culmination, though. But you still get like the highs of the ADC battle because like at any moment anybody can blow up and it just becomes this like, oh, who's gonna die? Who's gonna die? With the Udyr Hecarim, it's like I'm watching watching paint dry at alive. Boy. But hey, we don't get that. All right, we're away from that. We don't have to be scared anymore, Joshi, as it is the Viego versus Hecarim we'll be getting for this first match.
Oh, true. It is the Hecarim bottom lane for Wixie. That is exactly what I was expecting as well. Nah, I do like this adaptation a little bit from 100 Thieves, recognizing that if you are going to be picking up a Phyllis, you don't need to do it in your first 2 picks because your opponents aren't going to take it away from you. You can take away some other power picks. And so small things coming through, and this set can actually be played in the bottom lane as a support as well as the top lane. And I don't think we've really seen Tony play it a whole lot, but I do like the fact that they are going to be opening with it as something a little bit different, as a pretty decent matchup into the Nautilus, and gives Golden Guardian some early game brawling power.
So I was gonna say an answer we've been seeing in the LPL, when a lot of the ADCs are banned down, or like the Ezreals, the Tristanas coming in. I was wondering if we were gonna get maybe something a little bit different from 100 Thieves. Nope, we go with the
You cursed it.
I cursed it. Yep.
You manifested something different. The universe is like, nope.
Hey, all right, we get the set though. That makes me happy because actually just coming off this last weekend, I got to watch a set support against the Leona, which I feel like is like the best setup for set to some extent, but it was incredible the amount of game-changing play. I told them they should change his ultimate from Showstopper to Game Stopper because the game's like absolutely incredible showstoppers into face breakers. Like it can change fights completely, especially when you're backing it up with the Jinx. Now, going to the second phase, we got to see what the responses are going to be and what they can take into the potential setup for the set, as the Renekton and the Akali banned away by Golden Guardians, Sylas and Tryndamere by 100 Thieves.
Yeah, Sylas is a little bit less common. There aren't that many picks that Sylas is specifically good against, but that makes sense if you're trying to set up for a Victor, right? Both these guys have a lot of ability to push around Jimmy and Victor, and Ryoma, we've known that he is one of the most aggressive and best laners in the mid lane coming in at the academy level, though he did, get taken to task a little bit by Kaidua last time around. The Victor is a champion that for the first couple of levels, Ryoma's not going to have a whole lot of opportunities to win that matchup. And so, with the Sylas and Tryndamere off, see what they end up going for as the Camille gets picked up.
That's so interesting to me that we do get the Camille, because you get that strength for Tony top. I feel like that we were kind of looking for on the top side, but now it does feel like Gamsu has a lot of options. Always going to be true with the counter pick on red side themselves. This is something that could change things up a little bit. Getting some stability in the mid lane, I feel like for Golden Guardians will be really important. Orianna has skyrocketed in priority, and here she is for Ryoma.
Yeah, it's got a pretty decent matchup into the Victor as well. You can walk up pretty aggressively with the with your full whenever the laser is down, and let's go! The Mordekaiser coming through for Gamsu. Man, I've been seeing this so much in like Plat and Under leagues recently, but has not necessarily translated its way all the way to the top of the standings. And just Gamsu, we keep saying, I want him to join the rest of the team. I want him to be part of these team fights. But he's just like, no, I'm going to move the opposite direction. I'm going to pick one person and 1v1 them the entire game.
I got, he doesn't want to be a part of that world. He wants to be a part of his own world, all right? As the Death Realm will definitely help him out.
See the little mermaid?
Yeah, just a little bit. Just a little bit. But then I do want to dive into the differences we see between these two top laners. I guess in general terms, it feels like they accomplish a lot of the same thing, right? Focus, target one person out, but in different ways, where Tony Top has more setup for the team, and Gamsu has more, you don't get to play the game for a little bit to his side.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is going to be the thing about this Mordekaiser, right? The champion is either really, really strong or kind of giga useless in any given game, right? The ability for him to actually win those 1v1s is incredibly important, and it's not obvious that he is always going to be ahead of all the members that he wants to try and kidnap, except for like Jinx. Probably he can consistently run down Jinx, but everybody else could actually have an opportunity to go for a real duel. So if Gamsu doesn't get a huge lead early on in this game, this is going to be a very tough spot for the 100 Thieves because that is one of their frontline members who might just be gone, allowing Violet to run over the rest of them.
And I for both these teams, I feel like they did get a lot of insurance, at least in their drafts themselves, like making sure that if the game does get to the later parts, we do have a lot of team fight potential for both of them, while both still having tools to utilize in the early game, especially through jungle, to get those leads for themselves. So both teams taking a bit of a reserved approach, no all-ins on either strategy, right? All-inning on the early game or all-inning on the late game. It's just a bit of flexibility for both teams as we hit the rift.
As we hit the rift, we realize that it is hard. It turns out that rock is not the best thing to be hitting, but the
You need
rest
a
of the
miner's
map...
pick, all right?
True.
I don't have one
Go buy a
available.
pickaxe. It's 875 gold.
I like it.
I hope you
goodness.
We can pretend we're playing Minecraft a little bit, but the rest of the map going to be rather still. Not a whole lot coming through. Not a whole lot of big surprises coming out in the runes and summoner spells from either side. Remember, despite what Riot support Twitter says, you cannot cleanse Mordekaiser Ultimate. You do need a QSS for that.
Yeah, you gotta spend the consumer dollars to make sure you can get
Consumer
the
dollars.
clids there. But
Pay your taxes.
yeah, exactly. Those are the taxes to be paid on Summoner's Rift. There are normal taxes. It's just those kinds of taxes. But I want to turn back. I know it's early, and we're not going to get what I want right now. But back to the conversation about Violet, right? Coming in here, his first game, they get the comfort of the Jinx that is so popular throughout competitive itself. I feel like they're setting themselves up for success with this bottom lane. Even if Chime is bringing out something a little bit spicy, does feel pretty good into the Nautilus, especially after those engages.
Yeah, and I'm going to be paying a lot of attention, right, to how Violet and Chime work together because this is the wild card between these two teams. Like, how is he going to be performing as Ryoma? Making this long trade, the extra wind-up passive, giving them a little bit of extra damage. But the way that Violet and Chime will navigate this bottom lane is very much a come fight me style, right? You just have a lot of damage coming out from Chime, and he can really look to just go head on against Busia as they already get access to level 2 first.
Yeah, pushing up onto Busia and Wixie, making them off the wave, who is just that Chad Gaming from Chime on the set in front of everybody, but it's still just that volatility in the mid lane that we were seeing between Ryoma and Jimian that is being hovered over by both these junglers. Although we do have same side pathing though, so a lot of fireworks could happen on the bot side. It's a level 2 roam by Chime. Will be spotted out by the ward.
Okay. I don't think there's a whole lot coming here unless he wants to flash. And
he wanted to get the face breaker with the minions. He couldn't get it.
I appreciate the attempt, but that's going to be putting the rest of the map in a bit of an awkward spot, right? The fact that Chime now has to walk back down means that 100 Thieves recover control of the actual wave, and Chime might be in a bad spot walking back. He will choose to go the safe way, but that's a lot of experience that he has missed out.
It is, and we'll see if we can catch up on that, right? I do think there's more, at least in terms of available experience to catch up with, especially if it happens this early on. We'll just have to keep an eye out on that one, as it is good movements from 100 Thieves, though, as Gamsu on the top side. I believe he's taking the Scuttle Crab, and it's already been taken by Kenvi as well, so Iconic will have nothing in the river.
That's okay. Not a whole lot that you're going to be missing out on. You aren't going to be matching Hecarim's farming speed no matter what. But here, Chime looking for an opportunity.
It's the face breaker there, and the stun into the Flame Chomper is not connecting, and Iconic can't make it happen.
Yeah, not quite dinky yet. Even with the Aftershock, with no Haymaker to actually throw out, not going to be doing a whole lot of damage right on back. And 100 Thieves now setting up a bit of a freeze. And so this is the punishment that we're seeing from Chime's early roaming. He tried to surprise Jimian by going at a time when he wasn't expected. Unfortunately, there is a reason why that's not a normal roam timer. It's because you give up too much control of the wave, and you are now going to be allowing Wixie and Busio to leave that wave in a perfect spot when they come back.
I love that we just keep getting the camera up towards topside with the wet noodle fight happening up here constantly. I don't think we'll get any of that volatility up there until we get jungle presence there. But it is on top side for both these junglers, just continuing to clear as Kenvi got it the back into the map here as well. Still Dragon number 1 coming up though in 23 seconds. Don't think we'll get as much focus on that one as we did the first series with Cloud9 on the board.
True. So we will see how quickly teams end up going for these objectives. But we're seeing, right, Violet has to try and push this wave underneath the turret so that it doesn't just get hard frozen. Now Wixie and Busio They're down a little bit in CS, but they're going to be able to recover most of it. And because they're a little bit late to their reaction, Iconic now in the mid lane.
Jimmy and looking for it as well. Ryoma putting a lot of damage onto Jimmy, and who just stood up for the trade there.
Yeah. And he's going to have to blow through most of his corrupting potion stack. So not going to be very excited about that.
Chime on the roam again. No roams coming out for Busio yet. Can't really get out of the lane, and Chime is taking advantage.
Yeah. So now this was a much better roam from Chime, right? The timer makes a lot more sense, but Tony needs to run away from Gamsu. I think he's okay. He is going to be able to walk that one out, but this roam made a lot more sense, right? Because Wixie and Busio now don't get total control of the wave. He's got the flamethrower, so he doesn't have the same kind of precise ability to maneuver the wave in the same way. It's a bit more like Tristana, where you're just going to be naturally pushing.
You see Kenvi clearing out some of the warding in front of the Dragon Pit there, just going back to his side of the jungle. It's just going to be Farm Fest right now for both these teams, as we do get the at least starting of stability in these lanes, and definitely having both teams looking towards the future, looking towards the scaling aspects of it for sure. I love it though, because even if, you know, we're getting the stable side of laning phase, we're getting the everybody's calm, cool, and collected. Ryoma and Jimmy are just trading fisticuffs over and over again in the mid lane.
Just fighting. And we know that from Ryoma. We don't necessarily expect that from Jimmy in the same way. And we even see that like Wixie and Busio, they were trying to get a shove in order to move up and, you know, try and help out Jimmy in the mid lane, but they end up giving over a bit of a small freeze right back to Violet and Chime, who do have a very small lead, right? Less than a wave, but it's going to be enough that Violet should be happy to try and back away once he has enough for the Noon Quiver and to get that pickaxe in order to grade himself a bit more safety and damage.
It's like the Minecraft storyline just keeps on building here, apparently.
True.
Kenvi did get his back off there just now, heading back towards his top side of the map. I saw the vision coming down from Iconic. I was wondering if he goes for a bit of an aggressive play there, but just going for the control ward in the top side of Kenvi's jungle, as it's just going to be back to farming.
Yep. Much slower game than what we saw from our first series of the day, which is probably good for Golden Guardians, right? Like, they definitely have Orianna, which is very strong the first couple levels, and then kind of falls off for a little while until you get more AP, and your ultimate does more than just a displacement, effectively. But they also have a Camille, right? This Camille is going to be scaling really hard into the game and will always have access to the backline of 100 Thieves in a very similar way that Hecarim will. The Hecarim isn't necessarily going to be going in and blowing you up in a single ability most of the time, even if he goes with like the Trinity Force, because of how much safety the rest of Golden Guardians provides.
And I feel like when you're looking at a team fight for a lot of both these sides, right, it's so back and forth. It feels like at any moment one of these guys can change the name of the game, right? Like a gravity field on top of Tony Top if he's Hextech ultimating him. Like, you don't have a lot of exit room for Tony Top, right? A big shockwave from Ryoma can change things around. Backline access from 100 Thieves completely changes things around. So I'm very excited when we actually get to those team skirmishes, right? We have Rift Herald on the table now, 100 Thieves up towards this way. So it looks like we could get our first objective focus from either of these teams at 8.5 minutes in.
Yeah.
He's not even going to do it.
He's like, nah.
Not even the Rift Herald.
Okay
I understand not going for the early dragons. Not even the Rift Herald.
You know, I don't like crabs, man. I don't want any of that seafood.
Wow,
but
that's another conversation we have to have, I guess. Because come on,
yeah,
man.
That is absolutely what crabs is, right? There's no other meanings.
Oh,
okay, gotta fight.
Speaking of, gotta go. Chime does get the face breaker. Moonlight Vigil right back on him. Haymaker's not gonna do too much. Nice stun from Iconic. Gets the devastating charge away. He has to flash away now. But it's fires being put out by Golden Guardians Academy.
Yeah, Golden Guardians doing a good job stifling what 100 Thieves are trying to do. But they're not necessarily going for their own plays a whole lot just quite yet, right? After Chime went for a couple of those early roams, hasn't left the lane again. And as both teams just farm up, well, one, Victor, almost is probably at the spot where he almost has his laser upgraded, where he can instantly clear waves. And once he has that, is a lot more free on the map. But Golden Guardians, I'm a little bit surprised. This is not how we saw them play with Stixxay on the team, right? We saw Iconic come down bot lane quite a bit more, and Violet seems a bit more self-sufficient thus far? Question mark?
Yeah, I'll stick with the question mark there at the end. But I did appreciate 100 Thieves putting a lot more focus down to the bot side, and it was really Iconic responding to Kenvi's aggression on the bottom side that ended up in that play early on. But still, nothing to be spoken of in 10 minutes. You see zeros across the board. The only thing that has numbers is the timer and the gold count, as we're tied 15,000 for both.
Yeah. Hardly a lead at all between these two teams. The CS leads are very small in every position. You know, a little bit more than a camp for Iconic, a little bit more than a wave for Jimmy, and it's just back and forth and back and forth, and both teams just farming it up. So I wonder.
Question, not
Question,
your analysis.
answer.
If you were a farmer, what kind of farmer would you be?
What kind of farmer? Like what kind of crops, or like animals?
Would you grow? Would it be
Ryomas.
Ryoma? Okay. Devastating charge. Ooh, shockwave response, though. He still dies, but can they get something after? Chime misses the face breaker, but still can find Kenvi with the heartbreaker of Iconic. The haymaker makes it so.
There you go, and Iconic gonna be able to turn it around, right? It is just a 1-for-1, and Chime is the one who picks up the gold for Golden Guardian. So, you know, small advantage coming out to Jimmy, and of course he wants those kills in order to get more Hextech evolution stacks, right? The closer he gets to all of his abilities leveling up, the more of a champion he becomes. So, small advantage going over to 100 Thieves, but not enough to actually try and pick up the first dragon of the game. But what kind of farmer would I be? You know, after I was done farming Ryomas, I feel like it would be fruits, like strawberries, mangoes, and things on vines. Maybe I'd have a vineyard.
You know, I would be a little bit out in left field. I don't even know if you can do this. I'd be a coconut farmer. Do they have coconut plantations or like fields, like things with like tons of coconut trees? I feel like that's not a thing. Speaking of, maybe 2 fly to the cuckoo's nest there for Kenvi, as he does get out at least.
Gamsu?
The rest of, yeah, he's put himself into a hole here, though. Yeah,
okay, at least force him to flash, guys.
Come on. All right, let's see the waiting game. No, they're just going to let him walk out? No way. No way.
Man, that says volumes about this game, right? The fact that Golden Guardians aren't willing to go in and even punish Gamsu, putting himself in that corner, just means that 100 Thieves and Golden Guardians are just going to be trading, right? The one time we saw an aggressive play come out from 100 Thieves was traded right on back. When we see Golden Guardians pick up the first objective, it's traded right on back, and this game is dead even between these two teams. And yes, I know a Twitch channel's like, well, you can't attack him because he would just ultimate one of you, but Camille might win that. Like, it's not obvious that Gamsu wins. Yeah.
I can't, like, he's got to be sitting there and chat like, guys, they're actually going to let me get away with this? Like,
yeah, I mean, I definitely, in like Gamsu's voice, would be like, okay.
I mean, hey, it goes with it. They're the thieves, aren't they? I mean, he gets away with it a little bit.
Yeah. Where's the top die? Instead, Iconic just, he was thinking about dropping the Rift Herald, but with the rest of Golden Guardians backing away, no real opportunity to do that. And as we take a look, I'm taking a look at the structure damage. The most of the gold lead that is currently coming out for the side of 100 Thieves is the fact that Wixie and Busio have taken 3 plates to only 2 in the bottom side of the map, and, or excuse me, to only 1, and then Gamsu took a plate top side, whereas Tony Top has not yet done any real damage to the opposing top structure. So that's where the 1,000 gold between these two teams is mostly coming from. But again, that's very passive, very much a farmer, herbivorous style of game this time.
This might be the least amount of tower plays I've seen taken this whole season in League of Legends. Although we're going to change that here as Rift Herald does go in the mid lane, gets a couple plates. Now,
Ryoma
death charge onto Ryoma. Devastating charge onto Ryoma, but a big shockwave as well on the backside. Ryoma, no mana, will die to Kenvi, who's looking for more. Show-stopping the horse into the tower, and Kenvi gets traded back. It's literally just trades every single time.
It's the same trade, too. Like, Chime picks up the kill again. Right, and so the only thing that like really changed was the fact that 2 plates went down for the side of Golden Guardians because they dropped the Rift Herald, and the gold is right on back to you. And so the only macro advantage that either team has is the Hextech Dragon that 100 Thieves have picked up. So, I mean, I wanna know more about Violet, Lennon.
Nope,
but
we don't get to.
there hasn't been anything in the bottom lane just quite yet, right? We haven't seen him go for any of these big plays. We haven't seen him necessarily like falling super far behind. We saw that Chime roamed out of his lane, but I wonder then if that just means he's like a sneaky style player, right?
Yeah.
Because I remember him being a little bit more aggressive on the world stage, but that was again like that was
also part of Peace's like shtick, I feel like, as well.
Yeah. Peace was a very aggressive team back in the day. That's part of why like their series against Red Cannons when it
Yeah.
was a 3-2 was so bloody.
It's interesting to see the adaptations over the time, right? Because it has been a decent amount of time for Violet, and seeing him kind of play it easy here early on, even though he had Chime picking up the spicy set pick there in the bottom lane. I want to highlight back to something I said at the beginning of draft, though. It's right now in this day and age of League of Legends, it's all about late game ADCs. It's all about which ADC can use their Gale Force better and who can position better in the team fight. So I'm definitely holding on to Violet and making sure, you know, we keep the eye on him as we crest into the later parts of the game.
Oh, Chime.
It is a big face breaker, though, and Kenvi has to back away as well.
Yeah, Aftershock mitigating almost all the damage that Kenvi was doing there. We're also noting he is going with the tank style of Hecarim. Unlike what we saw from Malice in last game, he doesn't have a Yuumi to make him supercharged the entire time. The Golden Guardians, even if they're trying to set up for this dragon, they're doing it early, right?
So
they
early.
will need to get a back end. They will need to deal with some of their waves beforehand. And with this crab in the middle, they're not going to know too much.
Showstopper onto the other side of Flash. Kenvi trying to get away. Heartbreaker, not enough. The burn is, though. Iconic goes down. Now you have Wixie putting in some shots with the chakrams, but Boostio dies. And it's just a snowball coming out from Golden Guardians.
There you go. Chime looking really good this game for the members of Golden Guardians, right? He's just like, yeah, 100 Thieves don't need to be here, so we're going to take a fight because we're stronger, and just showing themselves right, able to take down Kenvi, and now they're going to get a lot of damage on the structure. The entire turret shouldn't fall here, but this is going to be giving them a lot more pressure to potentially return next time they come for the dragon.
You know what? I'm realizing why we're not seeing all the explosiveness from Vi, because he's getting the VIP package right now. Like, all of Golden Guardians are like, you don't need to touch anything, sir. You need a water? I'll get it for you. You need some help? You need backup? I got it for you. You don't have to do anything. Just start attacking the tower. That's all we need.
Would you like this entire horse, sir? Okay, yes. Let me
Entire
bodily carry this horse by myself in order to bring it over to you. You can have 1 assist. There you go. Yeah, he just gets a full suite to do whatever he wants. And now we got a dragon coming up, and both teams could potentially fight for it. But Kenvi on the top side doesn't want to have anything to do with it, and that should just be another dragon going over to Golden Guardians this time around. And Kenvi gonna try and potentially take some camps and maybe attack Tony Top.
Yeah, I see pings coming in from 100 Thieves on the top side of the map. The Rift Herald should be spawning here pretty quickly, I believe. But the dragon itself is that focus for Golden Guardians as they tie it up 1-1. We get a Mountain Soul onto the Rift, and those choke points are gonna be even scarier now for both these teams, honestly.
Yeah. 100 Thieves coming down here. Remember, Gumsy doesn't have to use his ult. He doesn't have to go for the 1v1, but there are a lot of members of 100 Thieves potentially trying to take down.
Oh my god, that's a lot of damage on Tony Top. He just has nothing to say about this moment. He has the Hextech ultimatum, though. Beautifully done. Kenvi is stuck for a little bit longer, but the tower will switch focuses. The 100 Thieves pull off the dive in top side, but they lose their mid tower, as well as potentially Jimmy and GG looking for it.
Yeah, Golden Guardians are able to pick up the bottom lane outer and the mid lane outer, and even take away most of the jungle from Kenvi. And we'll see how much more they are able to do. Violet choosing to take away the wolves rather than get some damage onto the structure, and that does us a little bit, right? You know, very personally motivated for the gold because he's not going to be getting enough damage on this turret to take it down just quite yet. But it is a small advantage going over to the members of Golden Guardians, as it feels like they are just a little bit more proactive, right? Chime going and finding a lot of fights.
If he would have completed that, he might have finished it, but now he is not making it out of this. No way, Jose. Violet will take his first death in LCS Academy.
Oh no! He's currently got a KDA of 1. Unlucky. That's, you know, totally fine, guys. Don't worry about it. There's not a whole lot going on. It is just going to be an opportunity now for 100 Thieves. Maybe try and contest this. They are going to be teleporting Gamsu in.
They are, an Iconic needs to back out of this, but can't do it in time. Heartbreaker over the wall. It doesn't matter because the shutdown goes to Wixie, and Chime is caught with a flank from Gamsu. He uses the Death Realm there. Haymaker available. Not a lot of damage, though. And Chime just burned down the shielding, and Ryoma with the clutch shockwave.
Displacing the Q. Good stuff coming out from the members of both sides, right? 100 Thieves punching the fact that Golden Guardians can't really be doing this. They don't have members in the right place, and Golden Guardians not losing as much as they probably ought to have in that last fight because of Ryoma with the shockwave, but it is going to be a very, very steady game. This turret will probably go down. Jimmy comes in to make sure they get the last bit of damage. but the goal, it's still very even between these two teams. Realistically, the kill is being almost the entirety of their gold lead. So
It's literally just
I
been
don't-
trades. It's literally,
yeah,
like, I was talking the other day with somebody about how League of Legends just feels like a trading card game at this point, but like it literally, like you just look at the numbers. It's a dragon apiece, 2 towers apiece.
you
The
got
gold lead
you
is
got
the same.
you got a Charizard.
Like, I mean, honestly, I just want to make a new bit where League of Legends is just a trading card game. It's all about, you know, what trades
True.
you're willing to make in the game. But speaking of, Golden Guardians will be looking to trade this top tower for 100 Thieves' pressure.
Maybe that could be your bit, right? Like a Wall Street broker, as talking about like, you know, what trades.
I'll give you a
should be
throw at
looking to
Baron
make.
Pit for a bot lane tower dive at level 3.
Ooh, okay. Can I short you on that one?
No.
No. Oh, it's like Catan too. Well, as the game remains relatively even, as both teams, as we keep saying, making trades across the board, I start looking towards the veterans at this point in the game, right? Punishing some of our newer members. Because Wixie and Busio, for all of their great mechanics, for all of the individual talent that they've shown, are a little bit newer to this level of competitive play. They haven't necessarily been playing for quite as long. And for players like Ryoma and Violet, who have both had opportunities to play on the international stage, this is where they should be looking to step up, find these opportunities to exploit where some of the newer players are going to be, and find their advantages that way. Because as we get towards the next dragon and everybody's on the opposite side of the map, we're not seeing a whole lot from Golden Guardians, right? They're
Yeah.
not currently setting up.
And I want to check in with something really quick, talking about setup a little bit more. We're getting second items coming across for a lot of members, and Violet specifically has completed a second item. Now, the Phantom Dancer is something I've seen sparingly. I think I've seen one time this split as a second item. What do you think about it here? Opting into it, even though nothing has really happened. Typically, you would see the Phantom Dancer if things are going badly, but it's the second item choice for Violet.
I mean, I feel like it's a way to deal with Gamsu, right? More than anything
True.
else, and Kenvi, because these guys, if they're fighting you, are going to be in range anyway. You don't need the rapid fire cannon. The Runions doesn't give the same kind of just like flat AD, or just like the extra bit of damage as some of the other Zeal items. So it's a way for Violet to just do the maximum damage to people he knows he can hit.
I always find it really interesting. Probably still looking at third item, Lord Doms, to deal with some of these tanky members.
Lord Doms,
especially.
maybe IE. They're both good, yeah.
It's just the tankiness that worries me, especially, like, even with the Phantom Dancer, I don't say that that's a ticket just to deal with Gamsu, right? If Gamsu catches you out, you're still in some trouble.
You're still dead,
Like,
yeah.
there's still not going to be a lot of hope there for you, as we do see 100 Thieves actually starting up the dragon while they take bottom side tower. So
Ooh.
nice use of pressure from 100 Thieves.
This might be the best trade deal in the history of trade deals coming out for 100 Thieves.
It's a 2
right?
for
They're
0.
going to be getting exactly like what more can you get than free? And it's just a bargain sale, right? You get the bottom lane turret, you get the dragon, and there's no contest coming out from Golden Guardians. And I'll be honest, I'm not upset that Golden Guardians seeded both of them, because they have Jinx, they have Orianna, they have Camille up in the top lane. They even have Viego, who's not on the same like tier of scaling champions as everybody else, but is going to be relevant later on as they barely missed the rocket.
That was a good rocket,
Nice.
but they do catch Busio out. He tries to use the depth charge, but will only buy time. Wixie started walking over there. It's like, Busio's like, no, I'm sorry, man. I'm going to leave you out this time.
Yeah, I mean, impressive stuff coming out from Chime using the E. Once again, you got 100% kill participation. Been part of everything that Golden Guardians have been doing this game, and definitely been one of the players that we've kind of undersold a lot during the season. He's been looking for opportunities to make plays, and in this game, he's been making all of their plays.
And it's so interesting, too, getting to talk to Chime a little bit, who feels like he is, you know, flying under the radar a little bit, would like to be more involved in the community and things along those lines. Because his play backs it up, right? Like, this guy is incredible when he finds those engaged champions, when he can be, you know, the trendsetter, at least in terms of engagements for Golden Guardians Academy. We've seen it rampant throughout the season.
Yeah, and remember, he is not a Bard one trick.
He is not.
He will be very adamant about this. He is a Thresh one trick, and right now is starting to look like he might need to become a Set one trick in the near future with the way that he's been playing thus far. But as the game starts to get longer and longer, we will start to see Set having a bit more trouble like actually getting into these fights, because he gets kited, right? He's just a melee champion without any real gap closers, and we'll see what he can do. I know that Chime has enough gold, and he's got the chem tank to actually like keep up with people. But it's not necessarily the easiest thing to try and keep up with Wixie and Jimmy, who have a lot of slows and a lot of DPS between the two of them.
Yeah, for me, it's about the big wombo combo setup, right? If you can get the showstopper into a big face breaker, into a haymaker, like that is all you need to do. As I said, it's fine if you die afterwards, right? You go down with a ship, but it's making sure that Violet can get damage off in that wombo combo, making sure there's a shockwave in the middle of that with Ryoma. And so it's about the team synergies, really.
Yeah. And just as you were calling out earlier, Violet with the Last Whisper almost completed, or halfway completed, realistically. We will see what more it is that they try to do, because neither team, again, is really being super aggressive. The gold lead has been probably the narrowest this entire game. I can't imagine it's gotten to be more than like 2,000 in either direction this entire game, even if maybe for like a split second. And honestly, I feel like that's really uncharacteristic for Golden Guardians.
Yeah.
They are explosive. They've gotten a lot of their wins in the mid game when they were playing with Stixxay, trying to find these big opportunities. And I wonder if that's the
He knew! He knew
He
because
knows.
the ward there, the big follow-up afterwards. Moonlight Vigil after, though, can be all his own in the Hex Deck Ultimatum. Tony Top picks him off, and that's a big one for Golden Guardians.
God, Chime, so clean, man. Once again, finding his way in, and Ryoma still has access to the ultimate. So even though he can't really do a whole lot about the push, he can definitely make it very difficult for 100 Thieves. He can make it difficult and painful for 100 Thieves to try and walk
Need
in.
more damage on the Baron, though. Chime on the side here doesn't have any tools really available, but a
Chime.
flank here with the Face Breaker could be big. He can't get it just yet. He dies immediately. Baron next after that. Tony Top almost dead, but they're getting the resets now for Iconic, who is now taking control of Gamsu. Violet doesn't get hit by the Calibrum. He almost died by overextending there. Golden Guardians come out on top.
There you go. Another good trade deal coming in for Golden Guardians, right? And it starts with Chime. It starts and ends with Chime every single time. It feels like finding the double stun and getting the man advantage, and then coming in with more pressure on the rest of the map, taking down Busio. And the great thing, Chime is up in time for the Dragon, so we can see even more pressure coming out from the members of Golden Guardians. It feels like everything this game has been the support. Chime stepping up, he's getting the fight started. Chime going in for the flanks. Chime creating space for his bottom lane and even helping out his mid lane by just creating pressure and making Jimmy a little bit afraid. So great stuff coming out from the Golden Guardians bot lane. Now we'll see if they can finalize this win and continue building their lead up against the rest of the pack.
And I will say, you know, bringing Violet in, big change up the last bit. It's working out so far. I mean, he's on 3 items. He's got a 40 CS differential against Wixie right now on the Jinx, and this is exactly where you want to be setting this up. The 3-item spike is so crucial for the Jinx, and now you can feel confident to take pretty much any fight you want for Golden Guardians.
Yeah. Now, the thing is, I want to see Violet do more than what every other AD carry could do, right? You know, we waited for this guy for a long time. Stixxay had some big shoes to fill. And so far, you know, Violet, he's doing his job, right? And you can't ever fault somebody for doing their job when somebody else is stepping up and having this huge game, right? You don't need Violet to have a big game every single time. This is a position where I want to see, you know, this world's contender along with Ryoma, right?
Yeah.
To have these opportunities to do even more. And Ryoma
He
caught.
goes golden, though, buys a lot of time. Moonlight Vigil goes wide. Shockwave
Big
back,
shockwave.
and they're turning it around yet again. Now Violet's into the fight. Now he's on to Gamsu as well. He hasn't even put a shot into him because he's in the death realm. Iconic will die. Showstopper immediately from Chime. Now can be. Violet is still just in the middle of everybody. Tony Top almost takes down Wixie, and Violet going forward with his top laner. Almost dies to the Chaos Storm, but backs away just in time. Jimmy trying to pull out clutch with Kenvi.
Ooh, okay, but it's enough from 100 Thieves to actually stop the onslaught. Now they're looking for a way to actually take down this horse, but man, this guy's fast.
Yeah.
Another blue ribbon.
He is going to make it out just fine as he walks just far away enough against Violet. Although Violet's trying to make it. Doesn't have the Gale Force or anything. Does have the quick back, so we'll initiate that one. But this is what you get in the late game, right? This is the kind of explosiveness that can happen. And the fact that we haven't been focusing on Violet, neither are 100 Thieves in those fights.
Yeah, I mean, they went for a Ryoma. It's been 100 Thieves who have not necessarily been able to find a lot of plays throughout the day, right? Canvy tried to make a couple plays happen earlier, but then has been relatively quiet, not necessarily going for a whole lot. Instead, it's been Busio that stepped up in order to try and make a play happen. Unfortunately, they weren't in a position where they could capitalize on it. But the idea of him trying to make plays happen is what we look for in these rookies, trying to find opportunities to make the game more than just a slow grind for the enemy team. 100 Thieves, they remind themselves that yes, we need to keep looking for plays, but they actually need to find ones that are successful. And with the Baron still in Golden Guardians, oh, it's no longer in Golden Guardians' pocket, but the fact that Golden Guardians have this gold lead makes it very difficult for 100 Thieves to do.
It really does. And we're getting to the points where, you know, the late game insurance policies are going to be coming online here, at least when we get to the like, 4th item spikes and along those lines. But it still has been cleanliness of execution. It feels like that's in the favor of Golden Guardians. And a lot off the back of Chime.
Yeah, can't praise Chime enough this game. The way that he's actually been playing, and again, one of our unsung heroes throughout the rest of the season. But as I start to move in towards the top side of the map, it reminds me of something we set up at the very beginning. Remember when we were really excited about one of these characters getting picked?
Yes, I do. I do remember that.
It is in this game, that's for sure. I was saying it's going to be either really, really strong or kind of useless. In this game, like it won a duel against Iconic when Iconic started at half HP, and that's it. Kamsu hasn't necessarily been in a lot of these fights. He hasn't necessarily been going for a lot of these 1v1s. And instead, it's just been a slow grind as Mordekaiser just becomes less and less exciting in this game.
Let's see if they can utilize those Death Realms to make any difference in the later parts. As another tower goes down to Golden Guardians Academy, they will just be backing off to get a reset off in time for the Dragon in about a minute and a half. We sole point for either of these teams, as we were saying. A lot of trading going on, especially around neutral objectives this time.
Yeah, and it's kind of important to recognize that for both Iconic and Tony Top, they're pretty tanky too, right? They have the Death Dance and the Stairs completed for Tony, the Death Dance and the Black Cleaver for Iconic. Like, these aren't the Crit Viego. This isn't the old version of like Trinity Force, Sterix, Ravenous, Hydra, Camille, where you could easily just rely on blowing them up. Instead, they're going to be very difficult to take down, and with the extra resistances that come out from the mountain, the most impactful individual dragon, they're going to get harder and harder to kill. Same thing with Chime, right? Even though he's building mostly just straight HP, those extra resistances are so much more valuable.
They really are, and having a stopwatch on set is a game changer itself, right? You get to get that full engage and then also buy time afterwards. They get distance for the death charge onto Violet. Stun comes in from Iconic. Showstopper to the back. Tony Top on the side. Mega Death rocket in. The Wombo combo starting to come alive. Violet's excited. Look how much damage Violet is doing to these health bars. But Wixie's on the side with the Calibrum. They're still going forward. Iconic is down. It's just a trade. 2 for 2 between both teams. Again, keeping the synergy in this game alive.
We have 100 Thieves with position on this upcoming Dragon, but do they have the health bars to maintain it? No, they're going to be backing away. And it was really a situation where neither AD carry was put under that much threat throughout this last fight. And Kenvi, I don't think you can go for this, man. Even though Violet looks like he's alone, Tony Top right behind him is going to be very, very scared to take down as well. So it looks like a Dragon going to be going over because Kenvi on the far side and has no smite.
Dragon burning quickly between these two as well. There will be that next timer set up for 100 Thieves that they will have to fight around. Definitely don't want to give over Mountain Soul as we get a replay of that last fight.
Well, yeah, so we know what Violet does, right? He creates a ton of space, but I want to point out how Wixie actually plays this. And he just goes in, Gale Forces towards Ryoma, and by flashing away from Ryoma's ultimate, suddenly there's not a whole lot more threat. So Wixie actually able to create a lot of safety for himself, and as he starts hitting over the wall, he's able to keep himself relatively safe, and fighting a choke point against Victor, not the easiest thing in the world to do. You know, something, Sun Tzu, choke points, Victor W. It is very difficult to fight your way through Victor when he's holding an angle.
Yeah, I think that works out for both of these teams too, right? Like you saw,
it's another trade.
Yeah, exactly. It's literally another trade. I don't know. I feel like we're just like integrating this concept into the script at this point, but it really is. It's literally just been complete trades back and forth, and I think that the way we see these engages happening, where they're very sporadic, right? Chime literally started that after the depth charge came through with Busio by flashing showstoppering Busio into the rest of the team.
Get off my AD
It's
carry.
literally such tight-knit situations here. Golden Guardians actually take that tight knit situation, start the Baron.
Yeah, they definitely have a lot of control. They're going to force
They're
their
so
opponents through
slow.
Fog of War.
They're not moving in. The Baron's already gone. 100 Thieves have nothing to say.
Chime!
And the Hex Tech.
Chime!
Oh my god, he can't get it. He can't get the distance. He wants it. He can't do it though. Wixie just puts the shots into him. And now Tony Top is caught out. Hex Tech Ultimatum onto Busio. Depth Charge. Moonlight Vigil onto Ryoma. Here comes the devastating charge. Onslaught of Shadows. He goes golden, and it's not returned. Gamsu going in, misses it. The flashes everywhere, and Ryoma survives to lead Gamsu to his death, and a shockwave follows it all up. Tony Top on the back. That's a complete and total clean ace for Golden Guardians.
Oh man, that fight could have gone either way up until it couldn't. Golden Guardians in firm control of this one, and it was just Chime once again constantly creating pressure, forcing people away from Violet, and creating so much space throughout this entire game. Golden Guardians, even though they take it slow and steady, even though this isn't the Golden Guardians we're used to seeing, the results don't lie. Taking down 100 Thieves off the back of a brilliant performance coming off of their support.
And that is the beauty of these types of games. We all know it was coming. Yes, we can talk about the lull states and how slow the early parts of the game is, but it all comes down to 1 or 2 team fights when we have that. We all know it's coming because the late game is terrifying. Your death timers are so long, and literally one momentum swing can mean the difference, and that's what it did just now for Golden Guardians.
Yeah, good stuff coming through. I mean, Violet's positioning pretty darn good throughout these team fights. No big flashy plays, so we don't necessarily get to learn a whole lot more about him as a player, but he's doing his job, right? And again, chime, 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 chime. Every single time, it feels like he was looking for an angle. He was creating pressure. He was looking for ways to get onto the enemy backline. He was always trying to start these fights, and the way that he was able to do so successfully and so repeatedly throughout this game is part of why I want to spend a little bit more time looking at him in the next game as well.
Absolutely. Gotta see if that set comes in for another game as well. We'll send it to a little break, though, while we get ready. Enjoy the halftime while we do get ready for the second game of the series.